Hey, everybody. It's Monday. You got your Hecho in Mexico shirt on. Yeah. No, I'm not pronouncing it right. But that's just what it looks like to me. Yeah.
Hecho. Yeah.
Well,
Made.
Yeah, you're having...
In Portuguese, it's feito. Real close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to give a shout out. I don't think Louie is here, but I'll probably do this again like on the main show. But we got a package from Louie today and sent us the steel book of the Karate Kid.
Oh, I never seen that one.
Which is fucking cool.
Okay. Oh, that's the original Karate Kid.
Yeah, the original Karate Kid.
Cool.
And this movie here called The Accountant, which I actually have heard is very, very good.
Never seen that one.
I haven't seen it either,
Yeah,
but I've heard
one.
it's like really good. Yeah. So thank you very much,
Okay.
Louie. Like I said, I'll announce again on the main show when maybe Louie will be here. But, you know. Oh, I also wanted to say, and I don't think Dermot is here either, one of our UK fans sent us another, like, Amazon gift card. So thank you very much. He sends us Amazon gift cards, like, all the time. So thank you very much for that, Dermot. Like I said, I will thank you again on the main show, you know, because I don't know if you're here or not. So, yeah, we didn't know what movie we were going to watch last night. So I'm scrolling through Amazon Prime's free to me section, and I see this little movie here called Futureworld from 1976, which is a sequel to Westworld. Now, I'm sure that when because remember we reviewed Westworld a while back, and I'm sure that in the course of, you know, researching that movie, that it, you know, the information probably was out there that it had a sequel, but I had forgotten completely that Westworld had a sequel, which came out in 1976. So I was like, well, I told Tom, I was like, we need to watch that, I think. Just because, yeah, so I had never seen it. So, yeah, this actually, I kind of feel like it didn't get real good reviews at the time. But this is actually a pretty solid little flick. I like that they took the concept of Westworld and took it in a slightly different direction. Like, there's still, you know, the realistic robots, and there's still, like, the theme park aspect, but they kind of went, like, a little bit... I kind of feel like they went more with, like, a 70s, like, paranoid thriller type thing, like, with the robot. So I thought that was, like, a really, really good idea. So, yeah, this was actually absolutely worth watching.
I liked it.
I did, too. It's not as good as the first one, but... You know, I really like that. Like I said, that they took a risk and went like a little bit of a different direction.
Yul Brynner shows up in it, reprised the role of the original of the gunslinger.
Although I will say, I know why they did that, because Yul Brynner's gunslinger was like such an iconic role. But I will say that it does seem kind of like shoehorned in.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's definitely shoehorned in because he doesn't really have anything to do with the main plot, like that's going on.
It was just to get you to come see the movie.
Yeah, that's I mean, they basically, all they put him, he's not even actually in it. He's just in it like in a dream sequence. Yeah. And
she fantasizes that she meets him.
And yeah, because she sees him like in clips from the original thing. So this was directed by Richard Heffron, and he did a few movies, none that I had seen. But he's probably more better known for doing, like, TV. He did a bunch of episodes of The Rockford Files, and he did the original run of North and South. Do you remember that one? That Civil War series. So I remember watching that, and he directed that. So this is one of the handful of movies that he did. Now, I think MGM, who originally did Westworld, were actually going to make this, but then it turned out that they didn't really want to do it because they were going to do Logan's Run instead the same year, and they just thought, well, we're only going to do one sci-fi movie, and it's going to be Logan's Run. So they passed this one off, and I think AIP, American International, they ended up taking it over, which usually, I mean, I kind of feel like American International Pictures gets a little bit of grief for being kind of like schlocky B-movie kind of stuff, but this still, I mean, this looked like it was fairly low budget, but not really. And I will say, too, that this was actually, I think, as far as I could determine, was actually the first movie to use, like, 3D CGI. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I didn't see any of that.
Yeah, because the one part where they were kind of cloning Peter Fonda, and they had, like, part of him, like, they had his face in his hand, like the 3D, like in the computer, like kind of modeling like that.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So that was, as far as I know, that's the first use of like 3D CGI.
Yeah, it's not very impressive.
Well, no, but it was 1976.
Yeah. Right.
And this was the first movie to do it, apparently.
It didn't even really kind of register to me that they did that. This is pretty good. What they couldn't do the same thing twice. So they took this into the Blade Runner direction, where they're making replicants. They're making them out of proteins, and they'll make a total replicant of a person, which is pretty good. This is the year before Star Wars. It kind of makes you wonder if Ridley Scott had seen this, because the whole idea of corporations using things like this for bad purposes, it's all in here.
Yeah, I'm kind of interested to see, because, well, we were talking about last night, because you said, well, what about, is this where they got the idea for the replicants in Blade Runner? And then I was like, well, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep came out, I don't remember when the book came out, but
they weren't
you said that they weren't really replicants in the same sense as they were in the movie, so it's very possible.
Yeah, in the book, they were robots, basically. I mean, they had gears and cogs and stuff like that in them, so... No, they were. I mean, Deckard goes out to the fucking goes out to the desert and finds a fucking horned toad out in the desert, and he thinks it's real, but it breaks and a fucking spring comes flying out of it or something. So no, it was they were a type of robot. They weren't biological.
And this one, it seems like this one, it's a little bit unclear, because it does seem like some of the ones are robots, like they were in the first one, because they take their faces off and it has all the gears behind it, just like in the first one. But then I guess they're trying to perfect more like a replicant, like an organic type of thing, like more like cloning. I kind of feel like they're doing that. So there's kind of both. So what the setup of this is...
Well, they were 3D printing, remember?
Yeah.
Yeah. 3D printing them with proteins.
Yeah.
Which is way ahead of its time. They got the technology right. They were using proteins to 3D print them out. And then I don't remember how they were getting the minds into them, but they could make a replica of you.
And not only that, and like I said, I don't really know how this would work, but they're essentially cloning the people, but they could like read each other's minds.
Yeah.
You know, like if you're like if they made a
mind somehow.
Yeah, like if they made a replica, they didn't it was like some whatever technology.
Yeah.
But they kind of like, I kind of wish they'd gone a little bit more into that, because it's just like toward the end, like when the characters get replicated, and it's hard to fight them because they already know what you're going to do, because they think the same thing as you.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it was just like the movie, like the screenwriter being like thinking that a clone was like an absolute, because that, you know, in practice, like a clone of you would just be like a twin. They wouldn't be able to like read your mind or nothing, but you know what I mean?
I was thinking this may have this would have been a big movie when it came out. A guy like Ridley Scott would have seen it, definitely. This was the year before Star Wars. This is one of the top sci-fi movies of that year. And it goes in a direction a lot of Blade Runner, Prometheus, Blade Runner 2049. Or is that 4929? I don't remember that.
2049.
Blade Runner fucking 2. Okay, that's what I'm going to call that shit. All right, just out of defiance. Blade Runner 2. And Aliens and Alien and, you know, fucking Prometheus, where you have corporations just trying to replace people with their own creations. And they even come out and say it, so people aren't reliable enough. The quality isn't good enough.
They keep fucking shit up.
Yeah, and you guys don't obey. So it's just better to just make a person from scratch that is exactly what you want for your company. And basically they say, we're going to get rid of y'all. Y'all suck. Okay, obsolete. The whole world will be robots and these replicants. That's Blade Runner fucking 2. That's Prometheus. Same concept. Same, you know. So now, how they were going to do it was kind of like James Bond oligarch villains. they were opening a new park, and they were inviting all the most important people from around the world, and they're all showed up, and they all dressed like foreigners. They got them in foreigner costumes, so you know they're from all around the world.
We were laughing about that because it's like they did that a lot, like in movies, probably even into the 80s and maybe even the 90s, where it's like if you wanted to show like people from foreign countries like in one place, like in an airport or something, for example, they would always put people in like traditional dress from that country, and I'm like, normal people from that country would just be wearing like jeans and t-shirts like everybody else on Earth. It's like you're not going to walk around in your full fucking...
wearing dashikis and shit. Walking around in samurai costumes. The Japanese guy. It's fucking hilarious. But they just want everybody to know that... They wanted the audience to know that these people from all around... They were important people. The leadership from all around the world. Corporate, military leaders, everything. And they were plying them with coming to Westworld and Futureworld and have sex with all these damn robots. And
they were leaning hard into the sex with robots angle.
Yeah, they were fucking leaning into that angle. And then the idea is that while you were in their party and they're going to be taking samples from you, they're going to copy you. They're going to copy you, kill you, and replace you with your replicant. And you go back to your home world, your home country, and get back into your position of power. And this corporation takes over the world through its proxies. Like the World Economic Forum. It's like that. It's exactly like that.
Can I just say that prior to this movie coming out, you had another book/movie that was replacing people with very realistic robots, and that was the Stepford Wives.
Yeah.
The book came out in late 60s, early 70s, and then the movie came out in 1973. But that was essentially the same thing. I mean, it was a robot, I guess, but it was a really realistic robot. So it wasn't like that, it was kind of out there in the cultural conversation, I guess.
And the corporation was mostly all robots at this point. I don't think they even showed any humans in the corporation.
Well, you weren't really sure.
Because you thought the top dude was a human. Turns out he wasn't.
Yeah, Duffy.
Yeah.
So, all right. So, what happens in this movie? Now, going on from the original Westworld, obviously, that the company that's behind Westworld, Delos, it's been a couple of years, like 2 or 3 years since this disaster that happened at Westworld, where all those people, like all the guests and the staff, got killed because all the robots went apeshit. So basically, Duffy, who is the head of Delos, he has this big kind of like press conference, and he invites all of these people from the media, and he's like, look, we've spent the last 2 or 3 years, we spent like almost $2 billion revamping the whole entire park. It's all completely safe now. We replaced every single robot, every single circuit. There is absolutely no way that anything can go wrong. And we're going to make it bigger and awesomer, and you guys all have to come there and, write about it so that you can, because people still were, like, leery of going because of the whole shit that happened in Westworld, and they're like, well, I don't really know if I want to go there. So they still have multiple worlds. They still have... Now, Westworld is still closed. They actually do show, like, the set of it, but it's, like, still abandoned. But they have other sections of the park. They have, like, Medieval World still. They have Roman World. They have something called Spa World, which I guess is, like... It kind of has a weird hypnotist thing where it makes you, like, think that you're young again. Has that. And then it has Futureworld, which... puts you in a thing where they do like a simulation where you're launching and you're kind of like in a satellite around a planet, you know what I mean, and you can like go ski on Mars and all this other kind of stuff.
Space travel.
So that's kind of where most of it is set. But to be honest with you, they do kind of go into a little bit. They don't show much of the other worlds. Like they show a little bit of Medieval World and a little bit of Spa World and stuff, like for a couple of minutes. And even though the main characters, the journalists, Peter Fonda is like a newspaper guy, and Blythe Danner is like a TV like personality.
Yeah, Peter Fonda's good in it.
He is.
He's good in it. Yeah.
And so they, get to go there, and while they're on the plane going to the place, like I said, there's all these like foreign dignitaries, and they've also been invited to try this place out because they're trying to like get the word out about it that it's all safe now and shit like that.
Yeah.
So they end up doing Futureworld. So they go in the simulation, like it's, you know, going into space and whatnot. And then here's the weird thing about it. This movie, this only just now occurred to me this very second. The movie starts with a game show where this really obnoxious guy wins like $50,000, and then he wins a trip to, you know, Delos, to the
Delos.
future or whatever it is.
Yeah, Delos. Yeah.
And then like I thought he was gonna be like a bigger character because remember like at the beginning like he's on the plane and like I said he's super obnoxious and he's like hitting on
he's just a comedic relief.
Blythe Danner's character and shit like that, and I thought that he was gonna be like factor more into the plot later on, but then they kind of like forget about him.
I think he's supposed to be the everyman.
I guess so.
It's like I guess you're supposed to associate that character with you if you're just the average fucking Joe. You'd be like this if you went to Delos. Yeah, man. Yeah, that's how I'd be. That's
yeah, because it just seemed like he was just there because, you know, he gets two of the sex robots and he's like, well, I have to choose which one of you. And she's like, why do you have to choose? You can have both of us.
Yeah,
and he's like, I don't think I have enough like gumption to do that or whatever. It's just like, and I think after that scene, you don't see him again, do you?
Maybe he dies of a heart attack.
maybe that part was cut out. Yeah. But yeah, so
something was missing there.
Well, the thing about it is, okay, so Peter Fonda, the reporter guy, it's interesting because I guess him and Blythe Danner's character, they knew each other previously, like they worked together previously. Did they fuck at some point?
I don't know.
Like in the previous, it's kind of seemed like they had some sexual tension going on.
If you ask me, it's not that actress, that character is not very interesting that she's playing. She's just kind of a generic female character.
Yeah.
There's not much about her. And
she's a little bit sassy.
Yeah, but she's just
sassy.
Not that interesting to me. She's kind of a stereotypical female sidekick character for movies of that time. Kind of like fucking Frog from Smokey and the Bandit. You know, it's kind
she was kind of a bit like that. Except not as goofball.
Not as goofball, but just like that. There's not much to her. What's his name? Fucking get his name.
Peter Fonda.
Yeah, Peter Fonda. Peter Fonda, it's a young Peter Fonda, and he's kind of like playing a similar role that like a young Kurt Russell would have been cast in. He was kind of like that. He was at the Crussell status. He was at Crussell level.
Well, he's like, what I was going to say is that there's like a conflict between the two of them because even though you think that maybe they had some kind of romance in the past, they definitely did used to work together because they make a couple things about that. But she is kind of willing to take all of this stuff, like when she gets to Futureworld and they start looking into the stuff, because Duffy, the guy that runs the shit, is all like, you guys can ask whatever you want. You can go wherever you want. It's like, we want to show the world that it's like safe now and we got all our shit together and stuff. And she's kind of like willing to take it at face value. But Peter Fonda is like super skeptical. Well, he has reason to be skeptical because
you saw a dead dude.
Before he even goes to the place, this guy named Frenchie like calls him up and says, hey, I've got like all this like lowdown info on that place and come and meet me at this place. And then when he goes to meet him, like the guy gets shot in the back or stabbed in the back or something like that. So he's like, okay, well, obviously these people are up to something. So the whole time he's like sure that there's something nefarious going on, which obviously otherwise there wouldn't be a movie. Yeah. And she's just kind of like, no, it's fine. You know what I mean? Like most of the time. But obviously, like as it goes on, she's like, oh yeah, maybe you're right. There is something like nefarious going on. There absolutely is something nefarious going on, by the way.
Yeah, they find out about the plot. And it takes a long time for them to actually admit to you what is going on at Delos. You just kind of have to read in between the lines. You know something's going on, but it takes about a half hour before you find out what it is they're trying to do.
I figured it out like when their dinner got drugged and then they started talking about DNA and stuff.
Yeah.
So I figured out what they were doing.
Replacing people on the outside world.
Because the thing about it is that one of the improvements that they made from the original Westworld, they tell the people, is that, well, you know, the reason that we think the original Westworld, like why all the robots went apeshit and like killed all those people, was because there were these imperfect human engineers who were making them and repairing them, so it was like human error. So now what they've done is not only do you have like all the sex robots and all of the regular robots going in the theme park that you can interact with, everybody that works there is also a robot.
All
the
robots build
like all the programmers and stuff like that. There's only a few humans, one of whom is like a mechanic, and he actually ends up helping the journalists out later on.
He's almost hiding out down there.
Yeah, he's kind of like hiding down in the. He's got an old broken robot that he calls Clark.
Yeah.
Clark Kent, Man of Steel.
Yeah.
And
it's kind of goofy, but it's okay. It's
he
good.
plays cards with him and stuff. And honestly, like at the end where he's like leaving because he's like, well, I got to get the fuck out of here because I'm gonna get my ass killed, and he can't take the robot with him. Obviously, the way he like was saying goodbye to the robot was like, that man loves that robot.
Yeah. It was a gay relationship between the man and the
I
robot.
mean, it was kind of touching. I was like, oh, that was kind of sweet.
Yeah. And then the robot was crying when he left.
Yeah, he was like, oh.
Yeah.
Well, the robot, he didn't have a face because...
can't break it.
Well, yeah, the mechanic said, I kind of got sick of having to pull his face off every time he busted because it was like an old... So he's like, so I just left the face off. It's like, he doesn't mind.
Right.
So it's just, he's just walking around with these like fucking circuits.
It's a pretty good flick. One of the thing that kind of stood out to me was just the setting. It's some aerospace museum or something. It's wind tunnels.
It is. It's in. I looked it up. It's in Houston.
Okay.
They shot it pretty much in the Houston Space Center.
Okay.
It said on Wikipedia. I wrote it down. It's right here. It's right here. Oh, I want to say too, like the scene that they did in this movie in the bar. Like near the beginning where all the people were first in there and they were playing like Rock'em Sock'em Robots or whatever. That was the same set as the apartment set from Logan's Run. Okay. They just like redressed it. So there was that. Yeah. Houston Intercontinental Airport, Jones Hall, and the Johnson Space Center. That's where it was filmed. And all the underground shit is a bunch of like pedestrian tunnels underneath the city. That's where they filmed it. So it was in Houston. Also, fun trivia for you. In 1979, Futureworld became the first modern American film to achieve general theatrical release in China. Isn't that strange? This movie of all, which I kind of feel like has been more or less completely forgotten about. Because they did Westworld, then they made this movie, and then they made a series called Beyond Westworld, which I don't think lasted that long. And then, obviously just like a few years ago, they did like a Westworld series, which got like a lot of critical acclaim and stuff. But I think people forgot that they had a sequel and a series back then also.
If you guys never seen Westworld, Westworld was pretty good. It was a movie of its time. It impressed the audiences of its day. But really the best part about that movie was Yul Brynner. Yul Brynner plays a robot cowboy who kind of goes haywire and kills a bunch of people. And if you watch Westworld and look at Yul Brynner, you'll see that, if you ask me, that was the inspiration for Terminator. The original Terminator was Yul Brynner. He fucking does a great job as a fucking android, as a robot. And some kind of Terminator type shit goes down, in terms of like, you're trying to fool his vision, and it's kind of a running survival type game or type movie where this robot's after you and you can't stop it, and it's good. It's a real good shot. So it just kind of reminds me of that. I think that concept might have been lifted out of there as the inspiration for Terminator. Yeah,
I think we might have mentioned that when we reviewed Westworld, because I was like, this absolutely, in a lot of, especially like toward the end of Westworld, it is like a lot like the Terminator, like that character.
Right.
I was wondering last night when we were watching Futureworld, which, like I said, and I'll get into this a little bit, but they kind of shoehorned the gunslinger. Not that I'm complaining, because he was cool, but were those contact lenses, or did they just like have some kind of light?
I think it was some kind
reflecting
of
on his eyes.
It looked cool
because it looks really. It's subtle, but it actually looked really like quite creepy.
Slightly glowing like a cat's eye, white.
Yeah.
And he's had kind of. And Yul Brynner, he's in this movie too, so we can talk about him. He had a very cool look. He was, I believe, he's part Mongolian, and they never really bring it up. There's just something kind of alien about the way he looks. He just looked really fucking cool, and he's kind of a shorter guy, about my size, and there's just something weird about the way Yul Brynner looked. He was physically kind of menacing for a smaller guy. You know what I mean? There's something about his face and just the way he carried himself, his voice. His iconic role to me to be the King and I. He's fucking great in it, which is a musical.
Yeah.
King and I, really good.
I wouldn't mind rewatching that, actually. I haven't seen that for years.
Etc., etc., etc. Yeah.
I haven't seen that for years.
Kind of based on a real story, evidently.
I think we watched it in high school, like when I was in chorus.
Yeah, he plays.
And I don't think I've seen it since then.
Plays the King of Siam, which is a fucking country that doesn't exist anymore. It's now Thailand, I believe.
Yeah.
But he's in this movie and he does a fucking love scene as that robot. That's pretty good.
That's one thing, and like I said, I'm not complaining because it's a cool character.
Yeah.
And he just looks cool, and it's like, of course,
People wanted to see him again.
Yeah, he was the iconic thing from the original movie. So they're like, well, we have to find some way of like putting him back in this movie. So what they did, so even though the park is reopened, the Westworld part is still closed and it's abandoned. So obviously they couldn't have him in there like organically. So what they did, they just kind of showed it at the beginning. When they were in the meeting, like talking about the bad shit that had happened at Westworld the years before, and so you kind of get some footage from Westworld there. But then later on, just for whatever reason, well, I guess it does kind of tie into the plot. Was what you were saying about like the clones being mind readers and stuff. Yeah. This company has also developed technology that you put a bunch of like shit on your head, like a thing. And you sit in a machine and you fall asleep and it can record your dreams so like other people can watch them. So because they're doing, like I said, it doesn't have a lot to do with the main plot, but so Blythe Danner's character, she's like, oh, okay, I'll do it. And so she goes to sleep in this machine and she inexplicably has a dream in which the gunslinger is like kind of coming after her, but also she's kind of like, oh, all right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like he's menacing, like chasing her, but then she's like, oh, okay, I'm all about it. And he's got like a red ribbon and it's like spinning her around and then they're like making out and stuff.
Yeah, and it is bizarre because it's kind of like Arnie out of Terminator as the Terminator making out with some chick.
It is pretty weird.
He's real awkward about it and everything. It's supposed to be weird though.
I guess so.
It's supposed to be weird. But
it was kind of creepy, that dream sequence. I have to say.
Idea,
it was kind of creepy.
Weird. But it was a good flick. They couldn't redo that first movie. It just wouldn't work. So they tried to give you a little bit of Yul Brynner and that Terminator action, but they could only do it in a little side story in that dream sequence. And then it had to get back to an original story. I think, look, man, even though the first one is real iconic, inspired the Terminator, if you ask me, had a lot of good ideas in it. The first one was pretty memorable, especially in its day. I think the script on this one was better than the first one.
Like I said, this one had very much more of that like 70s paranoia conspiracy thriller type vibe to it, which I think was a good direction to go in.
Well, another thing is that they layered in stuff that Ridley Scott would have been all into.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which is almost kind of like a corporation that's trying to take over the world, like something out of damn 007 fucking Spectre. It's kind of like Wayland Industries and fucking what Tyrell Corporation making robots and making replicants, and they're trying to take over the world, and they're trying to replace the human population with more manageable versions of humans and better version of humans, and getting rid of our asses because we're substandard, we're obsolete, so they get rid of us. And so you'll just have that's what Prometheus was about, and Blade Runner 2049.
Yeah, so this movie is basically like they're trying out, I guess, like I said, they'd perfected the robots because they had all of the people working there were robots. But what they were doing with this like soft launch where they invited all these like world leaders and whatnot to come there, because they didn't clone all of them. They just did a few. They did they did the journalists, and then like a couple, like one like Japanese guy and like one like Russian guy or something like that, Russian general. And I think they just wanted to like try it out to see if it would work. to see if like the person could pass for like
Start
the
off
regular
slow,
person. So they were trying to like start off slow. So
They
even
didn't really
though
say what they were going to do with the originals, I guess they were going to kill the originals.
no, they did say because basically what the clone was programmed to do was the first thing they were programmed to do was kill the original.
The original, right? Okay.
And then they're supposed to just like to go out in the world and take your place.
Okay.
But you'll be friendly to the company and
Right.
just do what they want.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Like Spectre.
Right. So
007.
that's what they were gonna do. But then,
Right.
like I said, I guess they were just doing it a little at a time, which is probably pretty smart because if they did like replaced everybody,
Yeah, it
then
might be
everybody'd be
noticed.
like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
So they were just kind of starting with like 4 people at first, and maybe like to see if it would work out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So they do like a lot of like cloning type shit in this. So it was very, I mean, Michael Crichton didn't write this. He wrote the original Westworld, but I guess like some of the ideas that he came up with in the original one, like that kind of plays through into this.
Yeah.
Like I said, it has a little bit of a Stepford Wives kind of vibe to it too. Just in the way that you're replacing and then the clone or the robot is like, you know, gonna kill you.
The scope is a lot bigger, though.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to take over the planet and get rid of human beings.
Yeah, Stepford Wives was mostly just like one neighborhood, or one city or whatever.
Yeah, this is a lot bigger.
But this is
a
their
global scale.
Yeah, they're trying to like take over the whole entire
We're talking
world.
about like the 4th industrial revolution. Humans are obsolete. We're going to replace them with all these, and the corporations will like that. We'll have a few people, but they're just the heads of the corporations, and we shall inherit the earth, and we will have the Garden of Eden. That's what they're talking about, and they will all serve us as like gods.
Yeah, that's essentially
we're gods,
what
and
they
they're
were.
our creations. Which that goes back to Tyrell Corporation and Blade Runner. It goes back to fucking the dude in fucking Blade Runner 2049 over there. What was his name? Not Wayland. Not Wayland. Tyrell. What was the other one? The guy who was what was the name of that company in Blade Runner 2049?
I can't remember. Right
That
now.
made the damn. It made the hologram girl.
Yeah, that's right. I can't remember.
I can't
offhand.
remember the name of that. And he was trying to do the same thing. He was trying to make more replicants. He was making replicants and robots and AI fucking holograms. You guys might remember what the name was.
Yeah, Jason Willie says Michael Crichton was ahead of his time. Yeah, he definitely was.
Would Michael Crichton work on this one too?
Not this one, but he wrote
He inspired a lot
Westworld
of
though.
stuff. Right.
Yeah, and Mango says have to agree. In fact, his original Jurassic Park novel is far better than the movie. Yeah, it is actually. He wrote a lot of that real like sci-fi back in this.
Yeah.
Most of his shit's been adapted to movies. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But yeah, so yeah, this is on Amazon Prime. So if you liked the original Westworld and want to see a slightly different take on it, it's still set in the same world, but I like that they went in a slightly different direction with it.
They took it to the next logical step. If you can make a robot, can you produce a human, and what would you do then?
Yeah.
When you take over?
Yeah, because as soon as they started talking about DNA, I said, "Oh, that's why they invited all those like important people. They're going to replace them. They're going to clone them and replace them."
Right.
I was like, "That's what they're going to do."
So you have political power and just.
And then you can send the people out, and it's
over.
like just they'll do whatever you want because they're like under your control type of thing. But so this is a pretty decent flick, and it's just funny that, like I said, when we reviewed Westworld, I'm sure we probably mentioned that it had a sequel, but I had completely forgotten about it in the interim. So when I came across it, I was like, wait, what? And I was like, oh, okay, well, we got to watch that. So that's what we ended up watching last night. I don't know what we're going to watch tonight. We could maybe we could watch this, The Accountant, or we could find something else. I don't know. We'll think of something anyway. But we'll be back tomorrow to do another movie review. Do you have anything else you would like to add? No. All right. Thanks, everybody, for dropping by, and we will see you guys again tomorrow afternoon. Bye.